Okay, this is my personal Jesus reflection project for my Christology class. And my personal ranking of the importance from most important to least important is communication, trust, and honesty. I think communication is in first place because trust and communication go hand in hand. You can't really trust somebody unless you communicate it, because if trust were to be first, that would just mean that you're walking blindly into it. Communication being first, ensures how you need to communicate so that a person can trust you. And honesty also comes with trust, but I think that would be last because trust is more like a mentality mindset kind of thing. And honesty is just being blunt and outright serious about it. Just as I said in my relationships and Jesus assignment, Luke 12:1 shows communication because he was communicating with the people and his disciples to beware of the Pharisee. And that clearly shows communication to the people to be to warn them of the Pharisee that are coming. While trust is showed in Matthew 27:43, when Jesus had to put all his trust into God, trusting him in his plan and letting himself get crucified instead of fighting against the people. This clearly shows trust because no ordinary human would actually give themselves up like that. Because if everyone's against you in that sort of way, a person would not want to continue going along with the plan of, sacrifice yourself for the greater humanity. And lastly, honesty is shown in Mark 14:61. But in my opinion, I think that it's shown in all four Gospels because in Mark 14:61, it's showing how he was telling the truth about himself, yes, I'm the Son of God. But it also shows it in all four Gospels, but I just chose Mark 14:61 because that's a specific Gospel verse, and that's what I need for the project. But it clearly shows honesty because of the fact that he was just constantly telling people, yes, I'm the Son of God, even though they didn't believe him. He could have completely just stopped telling the truth and just gone on about his day as a normal human being. But instead, even though people were stacked up against him, he still decided to continue telling the truth and being honest with people. Now my next slide is about things that Jesus would love and hate. So 2 things that I have that Jesus would love is sewing machines and lie detectors. And one thing that Jesus would hate is the internet. I think Jesus would love sewing machines because of how he would always be clothing the naked. And personally, since he was the only one that was rapidly doing this, I think sewing machines is a good alternative of how, we're advancing in this and we're able to make clothes quicker because of this more advanced technology. And a gospel verse that shows this is Matthew 25:36, and it's basically just saying how Jesus clothed the naked and would take care of them. And sewing machines pretty much does that because it's way quicker than any technology that they had back then because they would have to do it by hand. And something Jesus would hate is the internet. And I think this because the way that in modern society, now that there's a bunch of cyberbullying and social media where you can just anonymously bully people and just hide behind a random screen, I think that shows how Jesus would hate that because in the gospel verse, John 3:15, is pretty much saying how could you hate your brother? And that's the way of saying how he would not like the internet because of the hate that's shown towards each other. It's kind of like how in the Bible it says that you should love your neighbor and your enemy. And the second thing that Jesus would love is lie detectors. And I think this because it shows truth and lies. And since the Bible is always talking about you should never lie because it's a sin, I think that's clearly showing how lie detectors in the modern world would be better because of how it would identify things like that. And a gospel that shows this is Luke 8:17. Luke 8:17 is basically saying, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light." And it's pretty much saying how secrets will eventually become known. Even though you might have said something behind a friend's back, she might still end up finding out, and it'll pretty much come back to you later. It'll become a whole drama situation. And in that sense, Jesus would love a lie detector because of how it'll change society in the future. It's like with criminals when you use the lie detector test on them to see if they're guilty or innocent. Anyways, my next slide is about my symbolic Jesus. And personally, I think it's my mom, especially since she's the only parental figure in my life because my dad died. And she's super supportive of me, and she'll always drive me to my extracurriculars. And this is a really big thing because I do a lot of extracurriculars like volunteering at the zoo, the Hayward Animal Shelter. I play volleyball, and now lacrosse. And she always makes sure to make time for me, even though I have a busy schedule. And since I also have a younger sister, she still ends up finding ways to split her time evenly between me and my sister. And my last slide is about the universal truth. And personally, a universal truth from the four Gospels would probably be John 15:13. And it's pretty much, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. And this pretty much means like people who are able to die for others, like people in the military and things like that. And I think a lot of people are able to agree to this because like if you ask a person, oh, would you die for like your family? A lot of people would say yes, like people you're close to, you would die for them because you have that much love for them. So that was my universal truth, and that was my personal Jesus reflection project. Thank you for listening.